this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
And away we go on the ML Sports Platter, brought to you by Stanley Law Offices, Bryant and Stratton College of Syracuse, and Brian Conboy of Mass Mutual New York State. Tax-efficient retirement planning today with Brian. Go with him, advisors.massmutual.com. He's got a ton of packages to prepare you for your financial future. You might be changing jobs. You might have a youngster going to college. Whatever the case may be, go with Brian Conboy today. Advisors.massmutual.com. He is also on Facebook and LinkedIn. Let's do it. NFL Week 3 is in the books as I record this. The Dallas Cowboys played the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously, on Monday Night Football. And it was just a Cowboy romp. Prescott shined on Monday Night Football. He had 3 touchdowns. And, this Dallas team, it just looked like a superior team. We'll get to it. We will get to the game in full lastly. But I go back to Thursday night, recap each game one by one here on the platter. The Panthers last Thursday, they're 3-0. And I know they only beat the Houston Texans, but the Houston Texans have been playing far better than what their expansion roster, I think, outlook had suggested. And frankly, you play who you play in the NFL, and that's it. And Carolina, Sam Darnold, man, he must be having a blast, huh? Compared to the Jets days. I mean, goodness gracious, the amount of weapons he has. Now, Christian McCaffrey got hurt in this game. Looks like he's going to miss some significant time. But they have Chuba Hubbard. You can always find a running back in the NFL, right? Like they have DJ Moore, big time offensive players. They've got some major guys on that team for Darnold to to throw to. And Robbie Anderson really hasn't even been a factor yet, right? And so I tell you what, man, Carolina is dangerous because their offense is functioning very, very well, and they're well coached, and man alive, that front is scary. By the way, Robbie Anderson only has 5 receptions. He only has 11 targets on the year. I did not see that coming this year. I really didn't. But Carolina's humming. They're 3-0. They got it all working in all phases. Their special team's pretty good too. And they got an excellent offensive line. That front is scary, man. That's a scary front, and those linebackers are scary. I mean, everybody from Thompson to Jackson to, they got physical corners and safeties. Carolina is playing some really, really, really good football, right? Jackson's a corner. Dante Jackson out of LSU, who had a bunch of tackles against Houston. But the front, is where it starts, and then it keeps going from there. And I've been impressed with the secondary. I mean, they don't really have a lot of guys, but Dante Jackson, Jeremy Chin, Rashawn Melvin, every week these guys have been extremely strong. I think Brian Burns is going to just keep having a big year. He's only a couple years into the league. And by the way, that's another thing. If you go up and down the Panther defense, a lot of these guys are 2 and 3 years into their careers. They're a very, very young team. So Carolina gets it done, 24-9. They are 3-0. The Buffalo Bills, 43-21 winners over the Washington football team. I am absolutely positively thrilled that the Bills were able to come up with this game offensively, because I got sick and tired of hearing people whine and complain after week 1 that everything was falling in, the walls were falling in, the roof was caving in. You don't win or lose the entire season after week 1 in the NFL. And by the way, since that one game, if you were to play the Steelers and the Bills a bunch more times, I'm pretty sure the Bills would win home and away most of those times. It was a bad week. There were a lot of eggs put in the basket for that game. The expectation factor, all that went into it for the Bills. And and they came back strong and beat Miami. But, even Cole Beasley had said post-game this past week, like, hey, we haven't, we didn't really scratch the surface against Miami. They were up 35, and they shut them out. But the offense could have done more. And, the Bills have that mindset, and Brian Dable has that mindset. Brian Dable lost his grandmother. That was a very, very emotional game for him. He fell into Allen's arms the way Allen fell into his arms last year when Allen had the same situation. And Dable is really, really, really tight with Allen. I mean, this is a major, major relationship here between Josh Allen and Brian Dable. And Josh Allen, honest to God, he was nearly perfect on Sunday afternoon in Western New York. 32 of 43 for 358 yards and 4 touchdowns. His quarterback rating, ladies and gents, was 129.8. His QBR was over 83. And dare I add that he did run for a touchdown as well. So Allen had just a spectacular game. I think it was also really, really encouraging to see the Bills going for, that hot hand, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, mixing it in here and there. But, this past week it was Zach Moss. Devin Singletary the week before had that big carry for 46 yards early. He was kind of the hot hand in the first couple of weeks. Now, because Singletary got some of those carries in week 1, even against Pittsburgh in the second half when they were figuring it out against the left side of that Pittsburgh defensive front. I guess I should say it's the right side of the defensive front, as a commercial just tees off on my computer. Although it was a State Farm music. So go get a free rate quote today from Matt Graham at State Farm. SyracuseInsuranceAgent.com. Matt Graham of State Farm is a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. But the Bills are going to keep doing this. They're going to keep one after another. They're going to keep giving it to the hot hand. And the hot hand was Zach Moss. He is a bull. That's why I call him Baby Bull. He runs like a bull, and he's really young, so I call him Baby Bull. I got to tell you, I mean, this guy and Singletary, I told everybody, don't give up on the running backs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't give up on Moss. Don't give up on, Singletary. It's way, 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 way too early, right? And yes, Orlando Cepeda in the Baseball Hall of Fame is also nicknamed the Baby Bull. Was nicknamed that during his career and still goes by that nickname. But a very encouraging game here for the Bills. Zach Moss and company. Now, look, Washington's front is really, really good. We heard about, the loaded first-rounders from, Montez Sweat to Jonathan Allen and company to the terrific Chase Young. I get it, man. That's a hell of a front. There's no doubt about it. They get after the quarterback. They're super physical. They make life ultra difficult. But the Bills' offensive line, man, they came to play. I mean, they really, 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 really came to play. And Darrell Williams, who had been shaky in the first couple of games, was outstanding. I thought John Feliciano was the best lineman there consistently. Deion Dawkins was fantastic. The Bills limited their penalties as well. So this was a huge, huge performance by the Bills' offensive line. I don't like the rest of the Washington defense. Their corners are brutal. They give up a lot of cushion. They can get beat deep. We saw Emmanuel Sanders go nuts there. But the rest of the football team, man, their linebackers and their corners and safeties, it's a weak group. They've got to have that front carry them, and that's a lot to ask. And against a team like Buffalo, and by the way, the Bills went with the 11 personnel left and right. I thought that was a smart move. They went with their 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, Dawson Knox, 1 running back, mostly Zach Moss. If you think about it, 5 linemen, Josh Allen, right? Receiver, running back, tight end, 11 guys, okay? And the 11 personnel seems to be a very, very, very strong place. Now, the problem for Gabe Davis is it kind of leaves him out. But I thought Gabe Davis had arguably the most important catch of the game because the Bills, they got the ball first. They were chomping at the bit to take it all the way down and make a statement early and to shut people up and all the rest. But they struggled in the beginning on that offensive drive, man. I mean, they had, I believe, it was an incompletion, and then they had a penalty, a false start, I think, on Sanders. So it was 3rd and 15, and Allen hung in there, and he fired one to Davis, for 23 yards, and the Bills got a first down, and then they hummed down the field after that and scored the touchdown. But that was a major, major play. A great job, by a great job by Allen to sit in the pocket, a great job by Davis to find space, and it was just an outstanding, outstanding play for the Bills and Gabe Davis. A couple other quick notes here on the Bills and the Washington football team that I did want to mention. I thought that, when you look at the receiver core, that 3 wide receiver group inside that 11 personnel, I just feel like, look, I think the Bills can go deep often, but I think that the Bills don't have to go deep that often. I mean, I'm cool with over the top. I'm cool with the exciting play. I'm cool with getting a bunch of yards right away. I'm cool with it. I am. But this whole thing, I mean, when Allen goes back, Cole Beasley was wide open in zones. He's going to be open. That's what Washington plays a lot of. Cole Beasley feasted. 11 catches, 98 yards. Emmanuel Sanders, 5 catches, 94 yards. Like, a couple of those obviously were, over the top. He had a couple of touchdowns too. The most impressive play of the game, I think, was Allen rolling to the right, buying more time, throwing it to Sanders, and he had that low breadbasket catch. That was a sick touchdown. Diggs, 6 for 62, but I feel like Stephon Diggs, it could be 8, 9, 10 catches every game, for 6, 7, 8 yards at a time, and then he goes out and gets a few more yards. I feel like that's there every single time. Every single time, the short stuff to Beasley and Diggs and all that. And I'm sure that Brian Dable and the Bills know that. Obviously, they did against Washington. And then they have to kind of pick and choose when they go deep. And Josh Allen, let's be honest, they were open in week 1. Allen just missed them. Allen had a bad game against Pittsburgh. But a really good, solid performance by the Bills. The offense was excellent. The defense was awesome, too. The football team, other than that 73-yard Gibson screenplay that he took to the house, they were pretty much contained and dominated, right? I mean, let's be honest. And the Bills, they had, again, Matt Milano everywhere. They had a couple of interceptions against a backup quarterback in Taylor Heineke, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, both of whom were hoping to take it to the house, right? Taron Johnson, again, all over the place. Greg Rousseau, all over the place, right? Like, these guys were everywhere in this football game, and, it was just excellent. Trey White should have had a pick, but they had defensive penalties called against them. So it was a good win for the Bills. They're 2-1 now, and they have a home game, against Houston. They should roll Houston, go to 3-1, and then they get primetime games with 2 of the best in the AFC. The Chiefs, who are struggling, we'll get to them in a minute, and the Tennessee Titans. But the Bills get things done against the Washington football team. Cleveland Browns 26-6. This was really an embarrassing game for the Bears. Nagy and Pace in the offensive line, starting Justin Fields, and just, he's got no help. The receivers cannot get outside on the numbers. They just can't. I mean, it doesn't matter what receiver it is. They can't get outside the numbers to give Justin Fields extra opportunities for targets. Allen Robinson, without a quarterback, he's just a non-factor. He really is. I think he's a great wide receiver, but I think he's got to have, somebody who can get him the ball. And, Andy Dalton's not that guy, and right now Justin Fields doesn't have time to get him the ball. So just an embarrassment for the Bears. Kareem Hunt had a great run in this game. And then it was just too much on one side and not enough on the other. Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Odell Beckham Jr. back and played well. So too much talent there for Cleveland. They just suffocated the Bears. And Chicago 1-2. They're on their way to a pretty brutal season. There's no doubt. Ravens over the Lions 19-17. This was a slugfest. And then late in the game, Lamar Jackson made some crazy plays. And Justin Tucker, holy shit, 66-yard field goal. And I heard Michael Wilbon on PTI last night. I go, well, yeah, but high school kickers are kicking 54, 55. Where? How many are there? A dozen in the entire United States who can kick from 50-plus yards, and they're all in Florida, California, and Texas, and Ohio. I mean, because a high school kicker can kick at 51, 52 yards doesn't take away from Justin Tucker, who kicked it 14 more yards than that at 66 yards. Sometimes Wilbon, man, I don't know. Sometimes he really gets me going. But Tucker hit the crossbar. It bounced in. Ravens 2-1, 19-17 now. And Baltimore, after that week 1 struggle, look at them humming now, right? I mean, look at all the injuries. Look at all the bull crap they've endured, all the adversity, right? Look at this Baltimore team, now at 2-1 here. And oh, by the way, he easily could have beaten Vegas in week 1. They lost in overtime. But sports are funny, right? If they win that game, do they go beat the Chiefs, right? The week after with backs against the wall. I don't know. I don't know. But it was a great win for Baltimore, 19-17. I know it was only Detroit, but, man, it looked really bad when it was 17-16. I mean, Baltimore just couldn't get going. They really couldn't. Again, too much on one side, not enough on the other for the Titans over the Colts, 25-16, another 100-yard game for Derrick Henry. This Tennessee team can beat you 25-16. They can beat you 41-38. Another solid win for Tennessee. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. I think they're dangerous. That offense is absolutely ridiculous. A.J. Brown, it looks like, might miss a little time, but Tennessee's got it rolling right now. They block so well, by the way. I mean, their offensive line, all their receivers can block. All their running backs can block. They're a fundamental team. They're nose to the grindstone with Mike Vrabel. They're going to be a tough out week in and week out. Chargers beat the Chiefs 30-24. What a win for the L.A. Chargers. Justin Herbert, flawless. 26 of 38, 281 yards, 4 touchdowns. And you know what? Man, the West is where it's won. Isn't it crazy? The Chargers and the Chiefs and the West teams in the NFC, my gosh. Vegas having a great year to start here. Denver isn't half bad. I mean, the West, wow, football in the West is absolutely unbelievable. Mike Williams making some unbelievable catches. You got Keenan Allen. That Charger offense is really, truly spectacular. You have to, in my opinion, acknowledge that every single week, this team is going to be a major, major problem if you're a defensive coordinator. Look at Austin Eckler in this game, too. I mean, he had 107 yards of total offense and a touchdown, which was a receiving touchdown. They are humming. Very good offensive line here as well. They picked up Corey Lindsley in the offseason. No relation. Also doesn't have a D in his last name like me. The Chargers, man, people said Brandon Staley is off and running, and people think he's, the cat's meow. I think the Chargers are super, super dangerous. I really do. You go on the road and beat Kansas City that way. Kansas City wanted to rebound after losing Monday Night Football to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm telling you, that was an impressive win for the L.A. Chargers, or as Chris Berman would say, the L.A. Superchargers. It sounds better, San Diego Superchargers, right? Saints beat the Patriots 28-13. More growing pains for Mac Jones. I mean, it's that simple. Anybody who thought he was going to go in and just dominate the NFL, you're a moron. He had 3 interceptions in this game. One, I think, was brought back to the house. And the Patriots just don't have, again, they don't have a great roster. I said that I picked the Patriots to make the playoffs, but here's why. Not because of their offense. Gone are the days of Tom Brady and Randy Moss and, Gronkowski and Deion Branch and, Amendolara, Damon, I almost said Damon Amendolara, from CBS Sports Radio, my boy. Amendola. Gone are the days of Wes Welker. Gone is Chris Hogan. Gone. I mean, they're all gone. They're all gone. It's a long time ago. During the 20 years that went by, all those guys are gone. There's none of those players there. Now James White's out for a while. They don't have receivers. Am I scared if I'm a defensive coordinator going up against Jacoby Myers, against Kendrick Bourne, against Brandon Bolden, against Hunter Henry? Right now, no. Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith were the big splash signings. They've done nothing in this season. I picked the Patriots to go to the postseason because of their defense and their offensive line, and the 7th wild card cheapens the last bid. It does. Just like in baseball. The 2nd wild card, it keeps it exciting. It keeps the players, the cities involved, blah, blah, blah. But but it's not, it just adds mediocrity. That's all it does to me, for me. Falcons beat the Giants 17-14. Terrific finish. Koo put it through from 40 yards. There were 3 field goals in the final seconds, at the buzzer, basically, to close games out. This being another one, Justin Tucker won, and then obviously Green Bay, which we'll get to in a moment. But the Falcons looked terrible in this game across the board, and so did the Giants. I mean, they really did. Daniel Jones actually was somewhat efficient again, and I'm kind of coming around on Daniel Jones a little bit. Maybe if he gets a little bit more help, he can be an extremely solid quarterback in this league. But I got to see more. The problem with Daniel Jones is he panics in the panic moments. Just listen to all the big football guys and just watch it. And people who watch the tape and see it, once things start getting crazy and stuff, he just starts losing it, right? And so let's see what he does in those moments moving forward. He does need a ton more help. Obviously, his offensive line is atrocious. The Falcons sneak out of New Jersey with a win, 17-14 with a field goal at the buzzer. Bengals at the Steelers. My goodness, has Pittsburgh's season started to go south after upsetting Buffalo in Week 1. They looked horrendous against the Cincinnati Bengals. Tremendous performance by Cincinnati, though, by the same token. Burrow and Chase were at it again. Joe Mixon, 18 carries, 90 yards. Again, I said it last week. I'll say it again. The Bengals offense is really fun to watch. When they're humming, they're fun. I wouldn't put them in a top 5 offense. I wouldn't put them in there with the Rams and the Bucks and the Bills and the Chiefs when they're going, and the Chargers you have to put in there now too. But I'd put them in there. Cardinals. But I'd put them in the top 10. I would, and I'd put them maybe in the top 7 or 8 as far as most fun offenses to watch. Packers would be in there, of course, way at the top. Cardinals, speaking of them, they beat the Jaguars 31-19. Took them a while to get going. They were down 13-7 at the half, but then they outscored Jacksonville 24-6 in the second half. And in this game, the Jags got a 109-yard freaking return. And they still got drummed in the second half. They still got pounded. James Robinson, thank you, sir, on my fantasy team for the points. 88 yards, 1 touchdown, and 15 carries and a loss. But, this was just a game where I think the Cardinals went across the country and didn't play that well. And then they, their talent shined in the second half, and they stuck out with a win. I think this happens a lot in the NFL. Arizona, by the way, is 3-0. Broncos 26-0 over the Jets. What am I supposed to say here? Too much on one side, and I can't even say not enough on the other. The other team is a peewee football team at this point. The Jets are pathetic. Zach Wilson is growing pain, one after another. The offensive line is absolutely embarrassing. The Jets they really don't have any playmakers on either side of the ball who can dominate games. I mean, that's really what this boils down to. They just don't have guys who can take over a game as well. When you're in that, mode of 17-0 and you need a huge play, who's going to make it to get back in the ball game? Nobody. And they don't have a quarterback to get them the ball. They don't have an offensive line to protect the quarterback. They're going to lose. The Jets are going to lose 13, 14 games this year minimum. In fact, the way they're looking now, I would peg them at about 2-15, 1-16, that kind of thing. I don't think they'll lose every game because it's hard to lose every game, but my God. Melvin Gordon, by the way, is really hard to bring down. He is a great motor for the Denver Broncos, and Bridgewater just keeps doing it. 19-25, 235 yards. Raiders over the Dolphins, 31-28. This was an incredibly riveting game. I caught a lot of the end of this game. The Raiders are 3-0. The Raiders are playing with a whole lot of confidence right now. Miami and Jacoby Brissett, they had gone in and tied it on that scramble. And then, the Raiders won it in OT. Daniel Carlson made the game-winning kick. And, the Raiders are a team now here with the Mike Mayock, John Gruden drafts. You're seeing a lot of guys come to fruition on both sides of the football. And Derek Carr, I mean, right now, he's an MVP candidate. I know he had a pick against Miami, but another 380-plus yard day for him. 26 of 43, 386, 2 touchdowns. He's been impressive. Peyton Barber, impressive. You've got weapons. You've got Henry Ruggs. We know he's been really good. Hunter Renfrow, by the way, becoming a very serviceable move-the-chains type of receiver. Darren Waller is right now a guy who I think deserves a lot more accolades in the NFL. We talk about Travis Kelce. We talk about George Kittle. Start talking about Darren Waller in that conversation. I'm telling you, he's that good. The Raiders, he might not be as good as Kelce from a consistency standpoint, but I think he's as good as Kittle. I really do. And the Raiders are rolling. at 3-0. Rams over the Buccaneers, just an unbelievable game here from the LA Rams. The offense is just terrific. Deshaun Jackson, he's got that speed again. He looks fantastic. And it's just one weapon after another for Matt Stafford. 27-38 for 343 yards, 134 quarterback rating, 89.5 on the QBR. I got to say, I mean, it's dangerous for everybody else when they play the LA Rams. How do you stop these guys? They picked up Sony Michel for a bag of footballs. He's actually been performing just fine, but they don't need him to be Derrick Henry. They need him to be exactly what he was against the Buccaneers. 20 carries, 67 yards, balance it out for us, keep it going, and then Stafford to Kupp, to Jackson, to Jefferson, to Woods, to Higbee. I mean, and even Michel out of the backfield. This offense is humming. They can beat you long. They can beat you short. Stafford gets rid of the ball super quick. It's hard to blitz him. It's hard to blitz him because people are always open, and then Stafford gets rid of the ball quickly. If you don't blitz him, the Rams are great in one-on-one coverage. I mean, it's a very difficult team to stop. And I love watching the Rams, man. This is a team that's really, really fun to watch. Vikings beat the Seahawks 30-17. One of Russell Wilson's worst games. I wouldn't panic just yet if you're a Seahawk fan. But if you lose another one like this against an inferior opponent, this was also a trouble spot. It was a hard venue to play in. Kirk Cousins also played out of his mind, which usually doesn't happen, which I was counting on not happening, which is why I picked the Seahawks. And I was wrong. Kirk Cousins, 30 of 38 for 323 and 3 touchdowns, and he played a consistent game for four quarters. You don't see that often for Kirk Cousins, especially on a big stage, going up against a big quarterback and Russell Wilson, etc. Justin Jefferson just continues to be an unbelievable football player. 9 catches, 118 yards, and 1 touchdown. But it was Kirk Cousins was the difference. I mean, I didn't see that coming. He played really, really well. Packers over the 49ers. This game was unbelievable. It was a 17-7 lead for Green Bay at halftime. 49ers get a touchdown in the third quarter, and then it's 14 points for them in the fourth. Packers get 13 points. But San Francisco scored to take the lead with just under 30 seconds to go. And I'm watching the rest of the game in bed on my phone, and I'm going, man, that's just enough time for Aaron Rodgers. It really is. It's just 2 darts, right? And bang, bang. Devontae Adams, thank you very much. Mason Crosby gets up there. He never misses. It seems like him, Justin Tucker, it just seems like they never miss. From 51 yards, Rodgers drives him down in a matter of, less than 30 seconds, and boom, and the Packers win at the buzzer. This was a huge, 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 huge win for Green Bay. They got smoked in week 1 against the Saints. They beat a team in Detroit. We all expected them to beat. Detroit is one of the top 3 to 5 worst teams in the NFL. They had to drum them. They did. And then their nemesis. In recent times, they have not beaten the 49ers. They've gotten absolutely manhandled. The physical play has overwhelmed them. Seems like they play the Niners on the road every year, and the Niners seemingly seem to win. I'm telling you right now, that was a huge win for Green Bay. Quality opponent, road opponent, came back a little bit in the end. Rodgers looked great, 23, 33, 261, and 2 touchdowns. Rodgers and Jones and Adams are just one of the most devastating trios in the NFL. Cowboys 41-21 over the Eagles. Too much on one side, not enough on the other. Ezekiel Elliott was eaten in the first half. Finished with 95 yards, 2 touchdowns on 17 carries, average 5.6. And big game for Dalton Schultz in the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper got in the act just a little bit, but it was Schultz with 2 touchdowns in this game. And the Dallas defense rolled as well. Jalen Hurts was absolutely atrocious in this game. I know he had over 300 yards, but we got to look beyond that in the NFL these days. Everybody gets 300 yards. He threw 2 picks, and he didn't look good. Decision-making was horrible. And, a lot of the Philadelphia Eagles did not run great routes as well. So this is this is an Eagle team that's going to go through a lot of this year. And the Cowboys ruffled the feathers, pun intended, to move to 2-1. No surprise. Home game, better team, more talent, etc. over the Philly Eagles. So there's my Week 3 NFL recap. I'm going to hand my game ball to Josh Allen, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. He gets it 32 of 43, 358 yards, 4 touchdowns, ran for 1 as well. Great QBR, great rating, was unbelievably efficient, super mobile, was extending plays, great in the pocket, nimble with his feet, threw it deep, threw it short, found people, extra checkdowns, which he didn't do in week 1 against Pittsburgh. He answered the critics against a really good defensive front, and he was nails the entire game. Josh Allen gets my game ball. The ML Sports Platter is brought to you by our great friends at Welch & Company Jewelers. Shop the showcase today at welchjewelers.com. That's welchjewelers.com. Tip of the cap, thank you as well to Rosie's Corner, Liverpool Physical Therapy, the Syracuse Fitness Store, and Bryant and Stratton College, the official college of the ML Sports Platter. 2- and 4-year degrees are starting soon. Head on over to bryantstratton.edu. Start your career right now with Bryant and Stratton College's unbelievable education. God, they've got great programs, including the nursing program, which was recently launched over the summertime. 2- and 4-year degrees, they start right now at Bryant and Stratton College, the official college of the ML Sports Platter in Central New York. 2 great locations, Oswego Street in Liverpool and on James Street. Hit me on Twitter at Mike L. Sports. You can download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review to this podcast where podcasts are found. It's called the ML Sports Platter. Be on the lookout on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, etc. for all of my videos and a heck of a lot more. Thanks again for listening. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.